So to start this out, we're going to go ahead and start with our lightest value, which is 0, which is what?
White.
It's white, okay? So all we're going to need to do for our 0 box is just to dip our paintbrush into our white paint. You don't need a ton.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put my white paint here in my 0 box to indicate the absence of color or the absence of value. So this is what you'll be doing in your actual project. You won't be, if anything's a 0, you're going to put in white paint, not leave it blank. While I'm painting, I'm also trying my best at making this really nice and clean. So taking my time, making sure I have nice edges. I don't put a giant glob of paint on there. Okay, so just nice, clean practice. We're practicing on staying clean. Okay? Those big tin cans that are on your table, those are your washing out your brush cans. Okay, so we will get into the practice of every time we're finished using a color, we're going to wash our paint or wash our paintbrushes. So as soon as you're finished with filling in your 0 square, you're going to go ahead and rinse out your brush, and then you're going to wipe it on your paper towel a little bit. Just kind of dab it, so that you don't put any extra water into your paint and make it too runny. Okay, now for a second, I'm going to move my value scale out of the way and put my paint down under the camera so you guys can see me actually mixing, and then I'll put my value scale back when I'm painting, okay? All right, so here are I've got green and I have white. Those are the colors that I chose. So to do tints, it's much easier to grab our color and put it into white rather than the opposite way and adding white in there, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I am going to dip my paintbrush. I'm not grabbing a ton, but I'm going to grab some paint on both sides of the bristles here. Notice I'm not scooping. I'm not making a big old mess. I'm just kind of tapping my brush in there to pick up some of that color, and then I'm going to bring it over to my white paint, and I'm going to start mixing. Now, when I mix, I want to stay in this small area. I don't want to go like way large, because then your paint's going to get too thin and you're not going to be able to actually use it. So generally what I'll do is I'll kind of start by starting off in the middle here, and then I kind of come out to the edges of the paint and bring it into the middle and keep mixing there. So what I'm trying to say is, try to keep this pile of paint as small as you can so that you have enough paint to paint with. Okay, as you're mixing all of it. Okay, so you should put your color in all of your white that you had, not just a small portion.
Can you grab more of the color?
Do not grab more. Don't grab more of your color. Is it still like you didn't grab enough color is what you're trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay, then if it's still white, if you really can't see any color in it at all, then grab more. Okay, so it should be pretty light. Okay, so since I'm using green, I've got like a really, really light kind of mint green going on right now. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move this out of the way, and I'm going to put my value scale back down underneath the camera so you guys can see this. So because this is my first mixing, it's my first tint, so this is number 1. And I'm going to go ahead and paint that into my square right next to the 0. So it shouldn't be like crazy dark with color. You should just have a really, really light version of it. It should be really like pastel. Okay, as soon as you're finished with that, then you wash your brush. You all right? Okay, so once you finish painting that, you're going to wash your brush off, and then you're going to get the excess water out on your paper towel. You can switch over to a small one if you want. Okay, now I'm shooting for tint number 2. So I'm just going to repeat the same process that I just did. So I'm going to take my clean paintbrush and I'm going to go back into my color, and I'm going to try and just grab kind of the same amount. You could do just a little bit more, but I'm going to try and grab about the same amount of paint that I did the first time, and I'm going to go in and mix right into the pile that I had just mixed up. Okay, so I'm adding more color to what I already have. Wow. Okay, so again, I kind of pull from the edges into the center to make sure that I don't spread this paint out too far. And make sure that you're getting it nice and mixed up so that there's no streaks. Okay, so I've got this color completely mixed. I'm going to move my little paint palette, magazine paint palette, out of the way. I'm going to grab my value scale and put it back into place. Now hopefully if I mix this up right, 2 should look quote unquote darker. It's not technically darker. It should just look like it's got more color than number 1. So hopefully I'm successful. Okay, so side by side, it does have a bit more color in there. Okay. If your 1 and your 2, whoops, if your 1 and your 2 are too similar, guys, listen. Shh. If they're too similar, then you need to add more color in to what your 2 should be, and then you can paint right on top. So you should be able to see a difference. Okay, once you finish painting in your 2 column or 2 box, you're going to rinse your brush back out, and you're going to dry it off on your paper towel, and then we're ready to move on to box number 3. And I'm going to pause for a little bit. If you do need more, go ahead and grab more. All right, so I'm kind of holding off here to let some of you guys catch up. Okay, show me by hands who's ready for 3. Oh, okay, okay. All right, so same process again, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and just pick up more color, kind of the same amount that I have been doing. And I'm gonna mix that right into where I've been mixing this whole time. Okay, guys, really notice the amount of time that I take to really mix this tint up. Should not have any white streaks or color streaks in there. It should be one solid color. Okay. All right, so here I go. I'm going to paint my number 3. So my goal here is that number 3 should be darker than 2. Or have more color in it than 2, and it does. We only have one more to do. Yeah, yeah. Yep. Yep, yep. Yeah, we only got one more. All right, guys. So you got 0, 1, 2, 3. This at 4 is the last one that we have to mix. Okay, Lola, only one pump, bud. So we only have one more that we have to mix. I'm gonna move my scale out of the way. I'm gonna clean my brush before I get started here so I don't contaminate my colors. I'm gonna dry it off on my paper towel. All right, now for 4, I'm gonna pick up a little bit more color than I have been. And I'm doing that so that my transition between 4 and 5 is a little closer. So I'm gonna grab just a little bit extra color this go around. And I'm gonna mix that up here. And this is my last tint that I'm mixing. All right, so I've got this one mixed up pretty thoroughly. I'm gonna move it out of the way and bring my value scale back over here. And this one is number 4. Little bit bigger of a jump value-wise than my other colors, but that's okay, or my other tints. And then I'm going to clean my brush off. All right, so I'm pausing here just for a minute to let some of you guys catch up. But this last one here is pretty easy. All right, here is our last square that we're going to paint today. Okay, listen. Shh. Number 5 on the value scale is your pure color. Okay, so all you guys are going to do for this one is you're just going to dip your paintbrush right into your color, and that's what goes into number 5. So this is your pure straight color.
Anyway, so
I escalated way too slow.
I've also been wearing them for the past 3 days straight.
I didn't escalate fast enough because you're
Whoa.
straight.
All right, guys, shh, quiet. Okay, as far as painting for today, this is as far as we're gonna go. So what we accomplished is we started off with our 0, which is gonna be our pure white, and we've set our pure color at 5, and then these, where we put white into those, or into that color, or vice versa, those are called tints. Tomorrow, we're going to do shades, okay?